Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve produces an interesting thing on the media, and I do some reaction to it. And Steve may react to my reactions, or may think of something additional himself. So, over to Steve.
Hi, people. Well, Mark, you know what I think about politicians and about governments and why they do things and also why they don't do things.
Mm.
Uh, it's more obvious in the US than what it is to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I speak about the asylum seekers. So in the US, the southern border is open. They've had millions and millions and millions of asylum seekers going flooding the US. And in the US, some politicians are trying, some of the blue cities or the blue states are wanting to try and make the asylum seekers legal so they can, work and
Yeah.
and carry on with their lives.
Yeah.
In the UK, the government is a lot more subtle.
Mm.
It's a lot more subtle. I was watching yesterday Keir Starmer giving it to the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Sir Keir Starmer giving it to the Prime Minister. And I learnt that a foreign worker in the UK can earn, doing the same job, hired by the same company, 20% less in their pay packet. Why? Because they don't pay national insurance. Because they're a foreign worker.
Yeah.
And they don't pay national insurance in the UK because they aren't British.
Yeah.
They're only supposed to be there temporarily, I suppose. And that I thought was interesting. And these asylum seekers over the last, I'd say, like 5 or 6 years, the British government have been saying, yes, we're going to get it sorted, and what we need to do this and we need to do that, and this latest joke about Rwanda, and let's spend money on this, let's spend money on that, and the results zero. There's still these people are making their way to the British shore and being housed at taxpayers' expense. Now, it isn't what the government does tell you that that a lot of the time you should be worried.
Yeah.
It's what they don't tell. It's what they don't tell you. So what I found out is that on the 3rd of November, a law was passed, legislation was changed, that asylum seekers, if their claims have not been sorted out within 12 months, because of something that is not their fault, they can be employed in the UK in one of the what's called where there's a shortage of workers to do that particular particular job. So I had to look on the government website for this list of jobs that they have a shortage of workers.
Yeah.
And so it goes, from bricklayers to nurses. It goes from scientists to mechanical engineers. All of this, according to the government, they have a severe shortage of workers.
Really? That's interesting.
And so if you are an asylum seeker now,
Yeah.
after 12 months, we have to bear in mind that there's a huge backlog
Yeah.
of applications for
Yeah.
asylum in the UK,
Yeah.
and that's why all the hotels are full.
Mm.
It's the volume and the process taking far too long to sort them all out. And so we've got all of these asylum seekers after they've been here for a year,
Yeah.
or been in the UK for a year. Then they can go on to the jobs market
Yes.
in one of these jobs where there's a shortage of workers, and of course earn 20% less because they aren't.
Yeah. They're not paying
They're
any
still
eye.
foreign.
Yeah. They're not.
They're still.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you have it.
Yeah.
You've got it where what the government is doing is that they are dragging their feet
Yeah.
so that in the future is going to be where everybody earns 20% less.
Well, of course. You will have nothing and be happy. Um,
Yeah. Well, now you're going to have less than nothing.
I'm used to living like that anyway, but yeah, okay.
Me too, but
Yeah.
that's not the point.
Yeah.
You know, the point is that if you're 20 years old in the UK,
Yeah.
if you thought it was difficult now,
Oh, I feel sorry
and
for. Yeah.
and if you're 40 years old or older, you can start thinking about retiring because all of these asylum seekers, they're all like 25-year-old, 30-year-old men. Vast majority of them.
Yeah.
What they say in the UK is fighting age men. You know,
Well,
they're going to be flooding the market, and there you have it.
well, okay. Now I've heard different scenarios about this. The birth rate in the UK is apparently decreasing.
Yeah.
Um, okay, fair enough, decreasing. Okay. That doesn't necessarily mean you've got to push the panic button. The model the government's going on and all the people around it and the establishment and everything else all work on this side notion that in order to have growth, obviously you've got to have investment, but you've also got to have bodies on the ground. Okay, that's true to a point. The other thing is, yes, we've got an aging population in the UK. I had this discussion with my family about this yesterday. We all know for many, many years, pensioners and older people have been considered a burden. Yeah. We've gone away from the tribal thing of looking after the elders and all that, the ones of wisdom, to hope they shuffle off soon. And I don't in this discussion now, I'm going to be quite blunt on a lot of things. Yeah, for discussion purposes.
Sure.
There is an issue doing this on many different levels. To say there's not enough skilled engineers in the UK, I would disagree with that because I was in engineering in the UK, and I know a lot of my former people there who are engineers qualified who are struggling to find work. Yeah, and possibly yes. If they then find out that things are coming in behind, how do you integrate these people in the general population? Yeah, taking racism aside, ultimately there is something in our human nature that is all about survival. We're not hunter-gatherers anymore. Our hunter and gathering is going out and earning work to money to pay to feed our families, ourselves first and our families as well. Yeah. The people that sit in these elite places, and as you said, the politicians, and I'm afraid I said a few weeks ago I had some respect and hope that some of them were quite decent. I'm having to reflect upon that now. My local politician in the UK, I was going to write to him about my concerns. I won't say who it is. He's already announced that he's throwing his hat in, or he's throwing his lot in, his towel in. Sorry, not hat. He's throwing his towel in at the next election. I'm there for you guys. Goodbye, sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to say it on the podcast what I think of him at the moment, but it's not a good way. Are they self-serving people, yes. Are we heading into a strange world? I mean, again, this is a strange world we're heading into, where I'm not saying immigration doesn't work. We know that we come here, we contribute to the society in Brazil, or hope I do. Yeah, I know I do. I've helped Brazilians find work, yeah, by teaching them other things, mainly how to survive against gringos. But yeah, that's a different matter. Some have been quite grateful for that. But I'm not feeding the beast on that one. But yeah, bringing in these people who are on the face of it not skilled. Now, the other interesting thing I was reading about the other day is that to become a nurse, you need to have a degree as a starting point. So you've probably, by doing that, automatically put off a whole layer of people, girls and men, women and men, because yeah, there are male nurses and they do a very good job as well. Yeah, in my experience, yeah, they're good for lifting and doing other more manual things as well. That I excluded, who'd probably be quite happy to do a job like that, already living in the UK. So there isn't actually a skill shortage. There is actually an understanding of what should be required. Okay, some of the advanced, you can move into nursing, do it that you used to do. You do it almost as an apprentice scheme, yeah, and you build up. An apprentice will go on minimum salary if they're good and stick with it. They'll progress. They get the qualifications on the training job, yeah, supervised by the matrons and those beneath them, which was yeah, my grandmother was a district nurse. She got to a high level. She started off under a very harsh regime, but she became a very competent nurse under that training scheme. Yeah. And it finds out who loves to be the job and who doesn't. And the same with engineering apprenticeships. Those that are capable stay with it. And I came through a sort of apprenticeship scheme and got to quite a high level. Again, yeah, with teachers, learn the job as you go. What does a teacher need to do? Needs to be able to impart information, to inspire. Can you learn that in a degree? I don't know. I don't think we're totally I don't think there is a skill shortage or a shortage of labour in the UK. There's a skill shortage because the system is stacked against so many younger people there. Yeah, that they just don't feel like getting up out of bed in the morning because they're not going to get anywhere. And then to see these people going, no, I'm not suggesting that all immigrants come in and be lazy. We know this in Brazil, that some have come to Brazil and making a very good fist of it all. But they are getting everything, whereas the local populace, or perceivably getting everything, where the local populace aren't and paying the taxes for doing it. And as you're saying, and then this not contributing NI. But they'll still need healthcare and everything else. It will bankrupt the country before it feels a skill shortage. It strikes me that the people in the civil service want this kind of confusion because they're guaranteeing themselves a job in the future, always sorting out a mess, sorting out things. I might be wrong here. I'm afraid that's my cynicism. I think Braverman and Patel have probably proved that they're up against this thing called the blob, that want confusion, that want disarray all the time because it guarantees them their own jobs, self-serving. Yeah. And at this point, and I'm going to be honest here, I know we started off in immigration. I'm not going to go down that road that's been over discussed. And we're seeing the outcomes of it across the UK and in Ireland now, where it's going. There are, and yeah, the US I can't really talk about. We all know the mess in the US. Yeah, the way it's going is there is, and it's coming, I'm not joking, Labour are the big supporters of this. Power at all costs. Having the tier of all animals are equal, some are more equal than others, and this is where it's coming from. Have a subservient class like the horse in Animal Farm. I will work harder until it gets packed off to the glue factory. Yeah, and that's what I see. I see Keir Starmer as a Napoleon the Pig character. To a point, I see Rishi Sunak as that as well. Yeah. I honestly believe these people have an agenda. We do have a uni party in the UK, which is operating, which brings me on to my next point. But the trouble is we've got the blob, the civil service, and the people there. We can vote reform. We can vote reclaim. We can vote what's the new one, the Heritage Party, a combination of all three. Until you sort out the blob, who are not going to do what the politicians tell them to do, even well-meaning, reasonably well-meaning politicians, you're going to have this issue. And it doesn't matter what you say, we're going to limit immigration numbers. And then you've got somebody who's rubber stamping elsewhere in the immigration office in Croydon, or wherever it is now. You know, all the various ones, Liverpool, Croydon, I've forgotten what the other ones are. So until we have some way of maybe removing that, we may have to think of a temporary alternative style of government to sort all this out, administration. Some sort of intervention. I don't know where I'm going to go with this.
Do you mean like draining the swamp?
I mean exactly like draining the swamp.
Oh, well, where have I heard that before?
Yeah, well, yeah, but the trouble is it's a brave politician in the UK that would stand up and say that.
Well, I think
one,
there might be just one, but he's occupied at the moment.
He's literally almost in a swamp.
Yeah.
He's actually sharing space with what appears to be some swamp creatures as well. But you know, yeah. I'm not going to start going down that road. Yeah. Mind you, they're all leaving. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the millennials and the Gen Zs are not sticking it out. The older ones are. I think that's rather interesting. I'd love
to. The old ones are like cockroaches. They'll survive anything.
Well, I was thinking that because we've moved here, we're surviving in, I wouldn't say they're conditions, but yeah, we're getting on with it. I was thinking the other day, I mean, I wouldn't want to do the bush tucker trials, you know, I'd rather choose what I eat. Thank you very much. I would love the opportunity to go and live in the jungle like that for 3 weeks to have the experience. Yeah. I've been camping, I've done other things. Putting some canoeing in there, putting some rock climbing, I'll be in paradise, you know, probably wouldn't want to come back. Yeah, speaking of which, when's the flights to Uganda? Sorry, not Uganda. Yeah, Rwanda. When's the flights to Rwanda? Yeah. Anyway, I think
the point of I was trying to make at the beginning of this podcast is, you know, that why doesn't the government just be honest and open about what they're planning to do?
Exactly.
You know, instead of, it's like I said, it's they either do something or they don't do something, and it's left to us to find out what it is.
Well, the reason they don't do that is we won't like the bad news, or we won't want to hear it, even if there's truth. And I'm afraid that is either a problem politicians have. I mean, there was an old saying, an honest politician's no good to anyone. They're no good for foreign policy. I mean, yeah, they're no good internally. We all know what happens when a politician does tell the truth, or somebody moves from industry with good intentions and new ideas. They're pulled apart. So I think I mean, politicians are always scared of the people, which is a good thing. Politicians should be scared of the people. Yeah, the people shouldn't be scared of the politicians and establishment. The establishment should be scared of the people. In the UK, we don't have a Second Amendment, which I think would rather be an interesting thing. Forget the Americans, because us British, I think, would definitely play last man standing quite quickly and quite rapidly, given our cynicism and probably our less than caring attitude towards others on occasions. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking this the other day. If we had a second amendment in the UK, would the people already be thinking about rising up? I mean, we could imagine the events in London would be quite an interesting time. Yeah.
I think very much like in the US,
Mm.
the people are too lazy to rise up.
Or too occupied. Yeah. I mean, the only people that, well, the only people that
the only people that are going to rise up are going to be the extremists, and they are but a few.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You probably count the extremists on one hand. Well, not quite, but yeah, in the UK on one side. I mean, you and I are probably extreme right, according to some. Anyway, we're already extremists. So,
well, I don't claim to be.
Yeah.
Some can say what they like.
Yeah,
You know.
I know. I'm neither left nor right. You know, I'm all for a national health service, a national education system, but I'm also for the right of the individual to choose their own destiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, get them educated and keep them healthy, and then people can make their own decisions, which I think is the basis of a healthy democratic society. Democracy doesn't actually suit the few. It suits the many, but not the few. I remember an episode of Yes Minister where it called it the British democracy. Slowly over 200 years, been removing decision making away from the voters, and I think we've now reached the absolute
pinnacle.
bottom of the trench of that, or pinnacle of that. I don't know which way to look at that one. Yeah. Is there going to be a day of reckoning for their politicians? I really don't know. I mean, I don't think the next election is going to be fought on policy, because I think it will be any brave party that actually puts together any manifesto to be held to. Again,
what was it? One of the representatives of the Labour Party said the other day that they're not going to do anything different.
Well, they can't.
Yeah. Well, there you are. There you have it.
There's external forces to the UK won't let them anyway.